Hi, my name is Mara Soriano and my partner Alicia Santos and I did our project over fire blight. So today we'll be talking about what exactly is fire blight, how it originates, how it spreads, the symptoms, and how to treat it. So to start with, what exactly is fire blight? Fire blight is a disease on plants that you can commonly see on apple or pear trees, and the pathogen that causes it is called Erwinia amylivora. And the way that the disease works is that it can affect various parts of the trees, starting from the branches or twigs, and it can also affect the flowers, the leaves, and even the fruit. And it gets its name from its burn-like appearance, specifically in the leaves, which you'll see in later pictures. When talking about the appearance of fire blight, you can start by looking at the flowers, which start to wilt and turn a brownish color, and the leaves specifically will start to turn a downward direction and they'll start to crisp up, and they also turn a brown color. And as you can see in the picture right here, the leaves got infected and so they started turning downward and they all shriveled up in a brownish color. The way that fire blight begins is from the pathogen called Erwinia amylivora, and the way that the pathogen works is by splitting its cells. And the rate of the cell's division is regulated by temperature. The higher the temperature means that the faster the cells will divide and will spread throughout the plant. And the picture right here shows the pathogen and how it's reproducing and spreading. And when you're looking at how the pathogen works is when the weather is typically 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit is when it's most active. Like in the springtime and summertime when it's all hot and wet and humid, that is when the cells are able to move quicker and divide faster, meaning that the disease will spread faster. And as you can see in the diagram right here, it is typically in the springtime when it's most active and a little in the summer, not as much in fall and winter, which are the dormant seasons, as that is when the weather is typically colder and dry, so the cells can't split as fast. When you're looking at symptoms of how fire blight begins, you'll typically see like a tannish ooze coming out of one of the twigs or the branches, and once that ooze is exposed to oxygen, then it will turn into a dark brown color. As you can see in this picture right here, that's the ooze coming out. It's like a reddish brownish color, and because it got exposed to oxygen, and that's how you can tell that the disease is starting to spread. And once you can see the ooze, you can start looking at how the branches and twigs are affected, and then after a couple weeks, then the flowers will also be affected, where it starts to shrivel up. And even the fruit that grows on the trees can be affected, like the apples or pears can start to shrivel up and also turn a brownish color. And in the picture right here, you can already see that parts of the fruit is starting to turn brown because it's starting to rot away, and even the leaves that were affected are starting to turn down direction. When looking at the bacteria, once again, the way that it functions is that it targets the cankers on a plant, and cankers are a small piece of dead tissue on the trees. And when it's really humid outside, then the pathogen will start to ooze out of the cankers. And cankers can be of various sizes. They can be big, they can be small, and you can typically find them on the twigs or branches of a tree. And they start to have like a sticky kind of ooze coming out of them, and that's when you know the disease. And And the picture right here shows those little cankers that are on this tree right here, and that's the ooze that you can see coming out of it. And so in order to remove the cankers, you can start to look for like dark twigs or branches on a tree. And it's important to do this during like the winter or dormant seasons, because that's when the weather is all cold and not as dry. And ways to do this is you can use, you can like cut it off during such seasons as listed before, or burn it off using like a torch, and remembering to prune so that the disease does not spread. And before you start doing that though, make sure your tools are cleaned off by using either alcohol or bleach or hydrogen peroxide. So yeah, just by cutting off or burning off. And the other ways that the disease can spread is from insects and rain. For insects, as they start on one plant and hop to another plant, they carry the ooze that is on the plant, which carries the disease. And same with the rain, as the rain goes to various other places, then it'll start to spread the disease as well. And in doing so, the insects in the rain that carry the disease can spread the disease to entire orchards, which can be bad if it's not treated well, which is why farmers need to take care of the cankers using different tools. And during the dormant season, such as winter or summer when it's not too hot or as humid. And as you can see in this picture, that this, if an orchard were to get affected, you can see that the leaves are turning a brownish color, and they're all look all crisped up, like the name. More about the pathogen itself. When it succeeds in infecting a plant, then it'll start to spread into the cambium. The cambium is a part of the tree that's between the bark and the wood. And once it gets into the cankers, or into the cambium, then it starts to kill the young host tissues, which causes even more cankers, which again can be removed using various tools such as a torch or even like scissors, just proper tools. And this picture right here shows what where the cambium is located, in between the bark and the wood. So ways to treat fire blight in case it's already started to spread. There are various methods, such as don't irrigate your trees when they're in the middle of blooming. Just constantly monitoring them, checking if more cankers are starting to spread. And you could also just use anti-fire blight sprays. So one example of a spray that is pretty much effective is called Fertilome, and it's because it has the key ingredient called streptomycin. And that's a picture of Fertilome. And in case you don't know what streptomycin is, it is an antibacterial medication that treats bacterial infections. And it's not just used for plants, it could also be used for human infections such as tuberculosis, endocarditis. And that's a picture of streptomycin. And the way that streptomycin works is that it interrupts the ribosomes that are connecting the amino acids together, and as it binds to one part of the ribosome, then it can end up confusing the mRNA message, which can stop the spreading of the disease as the cells can stop splitting. And as we talked about earlier, the plants that can have fire blight are apple and pear trees, specifically apples like Granny Smith, Golden Delicious, Gala, or Fuji. But then there are plants that are less likely to get fire blight, which are ornamental trees. And so, in conclusion, it's important that you're constantly monitoring your plants, and if it's already having cankers and all that, to do it during the dormant seasons, getting rid of those cankers, the burning them or cutting them off or just pruning them so that it doesn't spread to the whole orchard. And I've said various methods, but there's not just one method that can just immediately stop the disease. These are just methods that can help you from having your plant completely die. And just to go over what we talked about just now, is that fire blight is a type of plant disease that is commonly found on apple trees or pear trees, and it's caused by the pathogen called Erwinia emmylivera. And by the regulation of temperature, it can spread fast if it's in the high temperatures like the springtime and summertime. And in case the pathogen spreads throughout the plants, then there are ways to combat the disease so that it doesn't completely spread, such as just monitoring your tree and looking out for the cankers or any ooze that could come out from one of the twigs. You can use one of the sprays called Fertilone, which has streptomycin, which can stop the cells from splitting and stop the disease overall, so that the disease doesn't spread through the trees, through the twigs or the leaves, even the flowers, and which is worse when it spreads to the fruit, because that's the important part. And these are our references, and that's it.